So I feel like we've had an anomaly in OKC where we're kind of optimistic that they can do something, and we go back to the same trajectory of good players, interesting team, but where do they go and what do they do? So we're talking about Toronto now, um, and a team that I felt like should have been very active at the trade deadline, and the only moves that they really did was to acquire, yeah, Jakob Poeltl and make a playoff push that really didn't yield anything. And now they're in an interesting position where Van Fleet is a free agent and OG Anunoby is in an extension sort of thing. And this one is probably my least passionate. There was nothing in the wind. There was nothing in my bones. There's nothing interesting really to say here. They have to re-sign Van Fleet. You can't let him walk. Maybe a sign and trade could be orchestrated, but I'm not really sure where the demand is for him. And you extend OG Anunoby because he's clearly a hot commodity on the market, and you keep him under your books, and you figure out if there's something to do in the future. And then, not exciting at all, but you wait till the mid-season. They clearly want to make a push with this team. They clearly want to keep them competitive. So keep them competitive, see what it looks like at mid-season, and then be in the exact same position that they were last season. If you're a Toronto Raptors fan, that championship is very distant in the rearview mirror, and it's going to stay distant in the rearview mirror because I would say that Toronto's not doing much until they pick a direction, and there seems to be reluctance to do so. So I'm going to also stay the course. Enjoy.
I think if I want to gather correctly here, you're referencing the fact that they didn't make any big trades at the deadline, correct?
I'm still mad.
Because I guess they got a chance here to make you less mad by actually making some trades in the off season, and I guess that's what I'm pitching. I'm saying, yeah, I don't have a specific trade actually. Let's start with that component here. I'm saying trade literally anyone for picks. I think the Raptors right now should be making all their all-star players and even sort of the older vets that they have on this core available and see what they can get in regards of picks and maybe prospects that are paired with picks or even expiring contracts paired with picks. Picks. All right, more picks, the better for the Raptors right now. And I'm saying that you build and play the only untouchables, like you mentioned, I will agree, is OG and Scotty Barnes. So you obviously are identifying that OG and Scotty Barnes are your core players at this point that you keep for next year, and you continue to develop and see sort of how they pan out and what they could become, especially without having to play next to Siakam, without next to Van Vliet, two very sort of, ball dominating players that need the ball in their hands to sort of do what they do and so on and so forth. And look, they're obviously their goal this year is not necessarily to make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs last year. All right. And, you could argue that in all different ways. But, I think that, if they were to be able to stockpile a bunch of picks and some prospects and build around those two core players, they're in the right direction, which leads me to the last point here that I'm suggesting. I don't know if you noticed, so JJ Redick apparently interviewed for the Raptors coaching job, which was a bit of a headline there. I haven't heard much more about that since, but obviously, look, JJ Redick obviously is a player which has got no prior coaching experience as far as I'm aware of, nothing significant on his resume. And I'm going to sort of disagree that that's probably the way that it should go. And looking at the names out there still, and sort of based upon the idea of going back to rebuilding ultimately with picks, okay, is that I'm suggesting that they look at seriously hiring Becky Hammond. Becky Hammond has had a resume as a WNBA player that obviously has been highly successful, and she'll be the first female coach in the NBA. One day when a team does make a decision to hire a female coach in the NBA, they'll break a glass ceiling there. And I guess she's right now sort of really been successful, obviously in the WNBA. I think she won last year with the, LV and the Aces and that sort of thing. Whether she wants to come across the Raptors or not, that's a whole nother story. But I believe she did interview for the role here. And I think that sort of player, with her experience, with the core that you sort of build slowly over time. So you don't throw a coach like that because she's got no prior head coaching NBA experience. She obviously was on Popovich's staff for many seasons as well. But sort of the expectations are not too high. They build up. It's a growth. And I've talked about sort of putting the correct coaches in spots where you allow them to grow with a team. And I think Toronto in a good position to do that. And I guess they're my sort of suggestions here for the Raptors. You got nothing to add?
I, you know what? Like we've done a lot of these in a row, and Toronto just. I feel like we'll just be we talking about the same things next offseason with Toronto. They've got a good collection of talent that will not be competitive. I think I know it's really hard in the NBA, but there are tiers to this, and Toronto is no longer in the guaranteed to make the top eight, and they don't want to go down to the let's play the lottery odds, and they're in that really bad space to be in the middle where we're competitive, but we're not good enough to do anything, but we're not bad enough to do anything, and they seem to be treading that water. Very similar to Chicago, very similar to Dallas, and I'm sorry for the low energy. I have nothing to do for the Toronto Raptors at this point.
This is two guys with spare time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.